right from where you actually start streaming.
Oh, so a little delay.
Just a bit, minute or two, not more than that. So, we got Gronky here asking Sas and Cubia. Today we are here to discuss about Reforged. Yes.
How long have we waited?
Long have we? For 10,000 years. After Reforged came out, that is. Okay.
How long were you playing Classic?
Oh, actually for a very long, probably over a decade. Like, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, like I didn't play. I didn't
The
play
game
much
doesn't
Classic.
exist for a decade, does it?
It's all going to be almost 2 decades. I mean, in 2022.
Wait, a decade is 10 years, not 20 years?
Wow.
Yeah. Decade is 10
Oh,
years. You
never
didn't
mind
know
that.
that? Wow, Mr. British.
The more you know, the more you know.
Hey, it's not a phrase that exists in my country. No one ever uses it.
But you said you're British. You're not British.
Well, I am
What do you
British.
mean?
I just
No, you're
wasn't-
not. You're not British.
I am
I'm
British. I
British.
don't live in England.
You don't
because-
sound British.
What do you mean?
Just
There's no
because I'm
decade
British,
in you.
Okay. Not to get off
I
topic.
don't live in England.
Yeah, that's
or
okay.
Britain, but I
That's
am English.
British Scotland? What about Scotland?
okay.
You
I
live
think
in Scotland? What about Scotland?
I
I
think
saw
you're.
heard about Scotland.
I think we're
Great
talking.
country.
I think we're ranting about the wrong topic. That's not what.
Yeah, we
what
can have a full topic about my heritage.
Yeah, we can have the topic
Anyway,
about your heritage later on,
not a phrase
and
that exists in my country. We don't
we
have
will-
that decade.
we will talk about the topic for the day. So without further ado, let's get down to the podcast. Alright everybody, this is Stormy with the capital Z, coming at you with another edition of the Capital Z Hour. Alongside with me, I have the participants for the podcast, Independent Gronky. Say hi.
Right.
Got Oz King. Say hi, Oz King.
noises.
I
We got a very popular member of the community here, Sauce.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And we got the hermetic leader
The
of
hermit.
the rollers. Yeah, the hermetic leader of the rollers. Who
I
probably
just,
has more
I just
information.
like how you, when you asked about independent Gronk, he basically just produced orc noises. That's
He's
about.
basically he's an orc now. He just embraced
You
his.
adopted the idea you proposed.
He
I
just
used to be a massive Horde fan, but then Illidan joined the Alliance, and now I'm a full-on Alliance heretic.
Lytton was always a part of the alliance. It wasn't he?
No,
Okay,
no,
never mind.
only Legion.
Not today's
Only
topic.
Legion.
Not today's topic. Not today's topic.
He
We got
only joined the
Storm.
Alliance.
Yeah. We got Storm Knight, and after that we got the one and only Cubia.
Ole.
Ole! Okay, people. So today we're here to discuss about a topic that had been in our hearts and minds. Well, mostly minds, ever since.
Before we
left.
begin, define discuss.
Okay.
But
No. Okay.
the fire
wait.
exists.
Well.
A more important thing to
What
say.
is the point of
Werewolves
Big Papa? What
and
is the point of
werewolves
Big Papa
are two
Z?
different persons?
It's already begun.
Yes, it's already begun. So the topic for today is how would had Warcraft 3 Reforged been successful?
Easy. One simple change. Just one simple change. Leave the original. Everything the same with Reforged. Just leave the original, and I wouldn't give a shit.
It's easy. Just
You
fix
would.
the game. Why so mad?
I don't even care about Reforged. I just care about the original. Like, why remove the original? Just leave the original the same and make Reforged, and that's it.
Well,
Yeah, I
Yeah. Leave me alone, mom.
at the very least, keep the old stuff that works.
Yeah.
yes. So I got the topic divided into a couple of sections over here, and we're going to be discussing things from one topic to another and go over the things that, well, is a part of Reforged. So, base story of Warcraft 3 Reforged. Warcraft 3, well, Warcraft 3, the sensation that lasted for over a decade. Like, not a lot of games have that potential to do so.
18 years.
Yeah, over 18
17.
years. It basically,
17, right.
Warcraft 3 survived for over a decade without proper support by its devs, by Blizzard. Like, okay, when Activision took up, I guess, they kind of basically gave up on Warcraft. But despite of them giving up on Warcraft and not paying much attention to it, it was just a part of the life of a lot of fans out there. The community, the modders, they dedicated a lot of time and efforts into Warcraft 3 and made it what Warcraft 3, well, I wouldn't say what it is today, but what it was pre-Reforged era. It was going good, it was popular. I wouldn't say it was more popular than many other games, but it was going good. And I'm gonna talk about a couple of things pre-Reforged era. The modders of the Warcraft 3 managed to make host spots. They had managed to make automated host spots that would regularly host games as a automated queue, and all you basically had to do was go into the custom games and join them. Once the lobby is full, the match would automatically start. You had that stuff going on. You had a lot of other stuff as well. Custom game modders made a lot of effort, made a lot of good custom games out there. Of course, everybody is aware of the success story of Dota. Dota was born in Warcraft 3 later on. The maker basically got employed by Valve, and then Dota 2 became a part of the Steam library. Coming back to the topic, Reforged. So pre-Reforged era was pretty different. People were there. There was a sizable community there that played Warcraft, that stuck with Warcraft for that many years. There were a lot of people that came on and off, but it still lacked a luster there. We still lacked mainstream attention. Mostly what we had was Back to Warcraft tournaments, like big tournaments that were hosted by Back to Warcraft, mainly hosted and commentated by Back to Warcraft. We got Grubby as one of the big things going on in Warcraft, and that was pretty much it pre-Reforged era.
No, you also had Witty.
Okay, yes,
still have Witty.
we
Yeah,
did
it
have
was
Witty.
amazing.
Yeah, we always had Witty, of course. That he was the guy that found his niche inside a niche. That is what an article wrote about him a couple of years ago. Managed to find a niche inside an already existing niche, and that's also a pretty big niche, by the way. There is a huge fan base in Warcraft 3 itself that plays a lot of custom games. And
I mean, Witty before was like, he kind of surface level paid attention to custom games while mainly playing 4v4, but as time went on, he kind of not completely, but more than 50% switched to custom games. I guess he
Correct.
found it more fun.
In his early days, he had like thousands
He
of
actually said that he liked
playing
4v4 probably a bit more, but his custom games were more popular.
so yeah, that happened, and somewhere in, was it 2018? Hey Knight, you're my autocorrector. It's 2018, right?
19.
Yeah.
It was announced at 18, made
No,
at 19 finally.
Wait a second, was it?
What is the
There were
question here?
rumors about
The
it
Reforged
Who
much.
is the criminal?
The criminal.
It was
Okay.
announced at the end of 2018 and was made at the end. No, it was
Yes,
finally released.
Asking is
2020.
right. Asking is
Early
right. It was
2020.
announced at the end of 2018. So yeah, Knight and I still remember that night. Yeah, I was discussing with Knight as in Storm Knight. So that night, Storm Knight I were discussing about something, and the guys from Back to Warcraft basically tweeted or put up on their social media something related to BlizzCon. We got BlizzCon coming in on that date, and they basically had a panel on that date at BlizzCon, panel or a corner, or I don't know exactly what you call it. So
Yeah, BlizzCon panel dedicated to Reforged.
Yeah, so basically that's when we had a lot of speculations going on about a remaster coming in, and as a Warcraft 3 fan, that's exactly what I wanted. That, well, just not me, everybody wanted a remaster. We've been waiting
Yeah,
for...
but if like I can say something, I feel like the remaster, like the how big of an impact, just how big of a deal this was for the fans, was overshadowed by the whole Diablo rage festa.
Yeah, that was also a thing there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go into the direction of talking about Diablo, but like the whole talk about that was so huge that it basically I felt like there was like a time loop in the middle there that everybody just forgot about. Reforged just coming, everybody just woo. Nope, let's just toss more fireballs at Diablo Immortal.
Goes on to say that a lot of people like to discuss the negative instead of the positive, but yeah, that's a little different topic that we would want to discuss later on. So yeah, Knight and I was just talking that day, and Back to Warcraft tweeted about a panel that they're gonna be at BlizzCon. So I just put that up to Knight, and I'm like, hey man, they're at BlizzCon. There's definitely gonna be something about Warcraft, just like any other fanboy would. Like, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people just did that, like, you know, with a lot of BlizzCons in the previous years, because every single time Blizzard copyrighted a new, you know, title for World of Warcraft, it could be anything, Mist of Pandaria, Battle for Azeroth, and any of the ones before that. Legion, Cataclysm, anything. The Warcraft 3 fan base, the fanboys over here, they'd be like, yeah, new Warcraft game, yeah, yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was just another hopeless expectation there by another Warcraft 3 fanboy back in those days. But this time, it came real. This time, Blizzard did announce a remaster, and people were hyped.
Got me in the game.
Yeah, it actually, well, it did, you know, solve a purpose there. It did attract, you know, got the Warcraft 3 back into the mainstream attention, and it did get a lot of people back into Warcraft despite of the failure and whatever it is. That's also a topic that we'll definitely be talking about over here. So that was the story of how Reforged was announced. When it got announced, of course, it only showed up a couple of trailers there. The culling trailer, of course, with the remastered music of Black Rock and Roll 2 was amazing.
Boy.
Oh, that was something that I watched over and over and over again.
Gonna get to that again real soon.
Yes. That's one trailer that I watched over and over and over again, just for the sake of hype there. And that was something that just got me back in those days. So we just had a trust over here in a company like Blizzard Entertainment, because we did not expect something what is Reforged out of Blizzard Entertainment. When Reforged came out, it had nothing that it promised. The only thing that it came out with was the Battle.net 2 integration, which is a step forward, but they took a lot of steps backward. If I'm gonna have to go behind a lot of things that they missed out on, they cut out on features. We have no ladder, we have no clans, no integrated clans inside the Battle.net 2.0 thing.
No custom campaign.
Yes, custom campaign was a big part of Warcraft 3. Now there may be people that want to argue about that. Okay, that's just a custom thing and etc, but Warcraft 3's engine's limitation is not limited to Warcraft 3 Melee. It has a lot of potential. It created Dota, it basically popularized the TD genre and a lot of other games. Well, if you want to talk about Among Us, I would go on to say that this genre was born inside Warcraft, because there were a couple of maps in Warcraft that I played that are very similar to the whole concept of one
Yeah, but
imposter.
that entire thing came from a
If you talk about
actual game that's called Salem.
if you talk about Dark Deeds, if you talk about Werewolf, these were games, these were probably the original inspirators of games like Among Us, and there's a lot of things that you can also talk about as far as the custom games are concerned. So yes, custom campaign, that's a big feature out there that got removed, which makes zero sense, as in why they removed it to begin with.
I can tell you exactly why.
The graphics... sorry, you want to say something?
I can tell you exactly why it was removed.
Why?
Because when they were making Reforged, they were running out of time and they had to cut so many corners. Their original vision was like completely not possible with the time they were given.
Well,
and what's it called? Activision pressured them to release it as fast as they can, and they were like, no. Yeah, this is why they cut so many corners.
Well,
first game, certainly not the last game that did such thing.
Well, even if we're gonna talk about it, I mean, we're gonna have to talk about it a bit more, because it's almost a year since Reforged has been released, and we still don't have ladder. We don't have ladder. I mean, the custom campaigns and all that is not something that, you know, 90%, probably 80% of the player base that's currently playing on Reforged really, you know, bother about that much. I'm not saying it's not a feature that needs to be covered, but the thing is,
it was one of my favorite things in Warcraft.
We don't even have.
I don't even know what custom campaign is.
Oh, I'm gonna explain that.
Ladder is much bigger thing than custom campaigns, because custom campaigns, you will play them, beat them once, maybe replay twice, and then you will move on. And you eventually play all of the custom campaigns, because you can pretty much count on the fingers how many are there.
No. There are no. I disagree. There's a lot of custom campaigns.
I know, but it's like less than, let's say, 100 good ones.
Okay, I would agree to that.
Play all of that, it's gonna take like a month, 2 months, and then you'll run out of custom campaigns. So yeah, you will probably move on to maps, move on to multiplayer, custom maps, ladder, and something.
Custom campaigns out there.
Well, if you do want to
the
talk...
Arthas custom campaign was really good, the Malfurion one, which I forgot.
Well, we're gonna have to...
Well, I've played most of them. Not all, but majority.
Okay, well, since we're on the topic, I'm gonna take just a few minutes to explain what exactly the custom campaigns are, and the, you know, the exact significance of having that within the Warcraft 3 client. So custom campaigns are like a compilation of custom maps that are put into one folder. It's a different format that works within Warcraft 3 Classic. For some reason they didn't continue it on into Reforged. So it's basically as anybody can just make a custom map, this feature allows you to make a custom campaign. So with that feature, the modding community had made miracles. What they basically did is made amazing number of custom campaigns that are, some of them are a part of the Warcraft storyline, some of them are completely different, some of them are, well, of course, there are a lot of things inside custom campaigns, but if you have to go over how important these things can be, you have hours and hours of extra content within the game of Warcraft. You played through the Warcraft 3 human campaign, and then before going into the undead campaign, there's a nice little campaign known as Corruption of the Prince. It's a short campaign consisting of just 3 missions, but in my opinion, it fits in there. It fits right between the human and the undead campaign. And then after that, a couple of more custom campaigns that I'd love to mention over here would be one of my favorites out there, which is Curse of the Forsaken and Rise of the Blood Elves. These 2 campaigns carry on right from where the Frozen Throne Warcraft 3 campaign storyline ends, as Arthas ascends towards the Frozen Throne and himself becomes the Lich King. That's exactly where these custom campaigns pick off, and they do a really good job at doing so. It's not like a simple thing created within a couple of hours or something. This had many releases, many improvements. So it's literally like Rise of Rise of the Blood Elves 2.0, Curse of the Forsaken 3.0. So basically there was a lot of polish put into there. They had custom models, custom voice lines taken from World of Warcraft, custom voice lines taken from Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone, of course. So, and custom music as well. So, and the custom campaigns that I am talking about go up till the end of the Wrath of the Lich King storyline, where Arthas is defeated and finally put to rest. So, you know, even if you just talk about this little topic over here, this gives the whole Warcraft 3 story arc a definitive ending. If you played the entire Warcraft story, of course, you'll have that cliffhanger ending where Arthas just sits on the throne and then done. You're done with it. Okay, what happens after that? World of Warcraft, of course. You gotta get a subscription, and
that's where it ended for me, because I never played any of the
World of Warcraft.
I also gotta mention this. The difference between versions in custom campaigns, let's say 1.5 and 2.0, isn't just, oh, I added new unit, oh, I just tweaked the value, I increased the HP, lowered the armor, yeah. It's an actual overhaul of the entire campaign.
Yeah.
The entire maps were made from ground up, different, better. It expanded several new missions in between shoved. New heroes and all that kind of stuff, new textures, new models, new units, new factions. There's another level of depth. It's not just, oh, I made a product, yeah, I'll tweak it a bit, like increase balancing, increase the values of attack, health, mana, yeah. That's how much dedication actually went into these things, and that's not a small feat to create campaigns of such an extent, such size, from ground up many times. And you know, now that Reforged came out, you will never see anything like that happen again, not in considerable future.
Yeah, and considering the graphics of Reforged, well, just a little teensy bit I'd like to throw in there before I talk about that. As Gronky mentioned, they did a lot of changes and also added in new missions within the custom campaigns, you know, between the missions. So Curse of the Forsaken basically added the Black Temple as a new mission, right, you know, when they were releasing the 3.0 update. During that time, so when I just read about it in the changelog, I was like, I flipped. I'm like, yeah, totally. I totally want to go in there and replay the entire thing just for that particular mission, where you literally go to face Illidan, and that was not a part of the main storyline at all. It was not a part of the campaign at all before, and you know, it was something completely new and something that you always wanted to do as a Warcraft fan, but you basically never liked World of Warcraft or never really got the opportunity to play that. And you definitely,
as a World of Warcraft player, you will never get the same experience from playing a World of Warcraft raid, Black Temple, and playing a Warcraft 3 custom map. You will enjoy Warcraft 3 custom map or custom campaign way more than you would do inside of World of Warcraft. And that's what I absolutely love. About custom maps and campaigns in general. It always kept me hooked, and even the missions that were the same, in the new versions they were tweaked. There's new side missions again, they were changed, rebuilt, and even though I have already played it, I have the different experience. For better or worse, usually for better. And that's the dedication that went into it, and how much time people spent on that.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the thing about custom campaigns. So, coming back to the topic once again, well, of course we are on the topic. Reforged came in with a cut of features. We didn't have ladder, we didn't have integrated clans, we didn't have custom campaign. The graphics were considered unappealing, and if we had to do a side-by-side comparison of the graphics, I'm gonna put down this right away. Hold on, I should be able to find this on Google.
The animations were
Can I-
dreadful.
Can I? But the thing is, when Warcraft 3 came out, the models, I remember as a kid being like, this is not impressive for the days, because I played Warcraft way later than it came out. But I said this is so good still for the time it came out. Reforged, all the models looked like, if not, oh my god, this is terrible. Please kill me.
Yeah.
I never want to look at art again in my life.
Okay.
They look worse than StarCraft 2, which came how
They
many
look
8
constipated.
years before, if not give or take. Don't
Okay,
know
I just
exactly.
put down one of these screenshots. Well, this is just the portraits though. I need the entire models of these things as well. This is one thing this is a good example as to what we can compare the models.
Speaks for itself.
Yeah, okay, so, I got a good one over here.
Yeah, this is just terrible. Look at Arthas here. He looks so constipated. Like, what better word is there to say?
And the animations,
Oh, wow.
animations are even worse than this. Animations are really dreadful. The facial animations when they talk, dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that they promised us, but didn't deliver, of
And
course.
for the first couple of months, I
They brought
remember the game
footsteps.
refused to work. Like, I would have to relog 3 times just to complete one mission. It crashed, it deleted my progress, it completely refused to work. It's like Reforged did not want me to play it.
Oh yeah, we had...
Same here. I had that
Also
problem.
happened on the multiplayer, the world tournament that was played on LAN.
Oh...
The guy against the Korean, he was winning 3 games.
Yeah.
In each game, the game crashed and it was played on LAN. It was not on the line, and it says that server crashed and he disconnected. Later on, he ended up losing
Not
the
on
actual
LAN,
tournament.
because LAN is
Actually, no, it wasn't on LAN. Actually, no, it wasn't. It
Now,
was...
I can tell you, as a guy who studied it in school and got 10 units on it, which is really good, I can tell you that it's 99% not a LAN, it's a WAN. And yes, there's a difference.
Okay, yeah, WAN.
Might have been able to hook it to a LAN, but, like, I very much doubt it.
Well, like, couldn't exactly found what I was looking for, but I'm just gonna put
Well, I
down...
thought it was LAN. Most of the CSGO and League of Legends tournaments are played on LAN. Of course.
Again, it's a, what I'm looking for, it's a phrase that's stuck, but it's inaccurate.
So...
I don't know where this entire phrase.
Well,
came from.
but it's
They
not
call
on
it
the
online.
line, all of you from home connecting to a server. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
not online.
Yeah,
There's
that's what I'm
different
saying.
lines. There's
That's
a network.
not online.
Okay, that's the
No,
difference.
it's not.
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
saying it is.
Hey, it's
I'm just
okay.
saying the difference between a LAN
Hey,
and a WAN.
calm down.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
It's okay.
sorry. Calm down.
Yeah, you're right. Everyone was
It's a
wrong.
phrase
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
stuck, but it's inaccurate. A LAN would be like a couple of computers that are hooked together. A WAN would be.
Okay, asking we'll surely have an episode about WANs and MANs and LANs and I don't know whatever. So
VLANs.
yeah,
That's the third one.
coming back to the models over here, the models basically they initially showed us in the trailer and everything, humans and orcs, they looked okay, and well, of course, we were just eagerly waiting for a new update for Warcraft. They were looking okay. They weren't that bad, as Gronky pointed out. So coming back to the models basically after it got released and after we basically had our hands on it, comparing them to the models of Heroes of the Storm, the models in Heroes of the Storm just looked better because they had Blizzard artists working on them, while this one was sadly outsourced. Blizzard basically outsourced one of their hottest IPs. You know, they had one job, just one. That's exactly the only thing they did. They just made models, and that job they didn't do it themselves. They outsourced it. The company of Malaysia that did it, I'm not gonna call them out and say that they did a bad job. I guess they worked well, but the thing is,
They were rushed.
I mean, okay, I would also agree that they were rushed, but the thing is, they already had like a good number of models in Heroes of the Storm, and if you look at Heroes of the Storm, back then when Heroes of the Storm was launched and popular and everything, a lot of people said that if Warcraft 4 was to come out, this is how it would have looked. That's what Hero of the Storm was, and that's how the models and everything were made in there. So a lot of people were expecting that that kind of an art style will continue on, but sadly that wasn't the thing. It came out to be very different. A lot of models just looked really bad. Example Sylvanas, example Murden. Arthas was okay.
Terrible, like
Illidan,
beyond terrible.
well, I guess you could say so. He had like a lot of examples there. So yeah, that was a thing about the models. Then after that, you had connectivity issues within Reforged. Like, you had a lot of disconnections. That's also something that we had a discussion about. That one of the big, huge tournaments going on there, where Thorzane was playing up against he was playing up against Moon, right?
That's the one.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So he was about to beat Moon, and basically that's a big feat. Nobody beats Moon just like that. And right before he could beat Moon, the game disconnected. That's between a freaking tournament. Yeah, that, I mean, that's really something you would say that's super unfortunate, but it's people would just go on to say, yeah, just definitely because of Reforged. They just didn't do it well. They just didn't finish the game the way they were supposed to, and there's a lot of reasons that would come around as to why that happened.
Yep.
And how they should have made it instead of how they actually made it. So
Can we talk about all the
None of
old
them
mods that they
justifies
made? Like the original, I think Grubby talked about this, the original trailer for Warcraft versus what we got in the campaign, and everything they promised and never got.
yeah, they basically launched the culling campaign, the culling trailer, the trailer for the culling campaign, and basically made an entire new mission. Just making a new mission is not a big deal inside the world editor, and they didn't even do that. Are we that bad? Is our money that being thrown onto Blizzard really that bad? They didn't even do that. Okay, so apart from that, well, okay, making new missions and all that is another thing to talk about. There's a lot of unfulfilled promises that they said that they would be doing, but they didn't really take care of it, such as hotkeys. Custom hotkeys has been like one of the major things in Warcraft 3 that never got addressed the way it should had been. It never got the attention that it should had been given the attention. Usually in a game, if you want to make custom hotkeys for your stuff, you would just go into the game option menu and you will find like a button
Like
where you could,
Warcraft?
yeah, in StarCraft 1 remaster has it, by the way. StarCraft 1
what's
remaster, the original StarCraft 1 didn't have it, Brood Wars didn't have it. The remaster, of course, for StarCraft 1 has it. So if
And
the
then two.
remaster for StarCraft 1 can have it, I have no reason to believe why Warcraft 3 wouldn't have it. So yeah, Warcraft 3 Reforged, they didn't even do that. You still had to go the alternate old route where you had to go inside your Warcraft folder and find a text .txt file, a notepad file, which you had to go into and edit and put down the hotkeys in there, which is a pretty complicated thing, by the way. Of course, you had custom apps that kind of did it for you, but these are third-party stuff. If the third party is so dedicated and they can make the stuff, I don't really see any reason for Blizzard not to being able to do that. So that's the stuff that Reforged basically missed out. And I believe we already remembered a bit about what Warcraft 3 was before Reforged. So, does anyone wanna add a bit to this before I talk about how I feel that Reforged could have been saved?
I have
Red people open fire.
Actually,
I have one thing.
it's not rant time yet. We will have rant time at the end of the stream. Just not
I
yet.
have one thing to say.
Uh-huh.
when the game launched in the first week, it was rated the worst game of all time.
Yes.
First week.
Hold on,
And
I
we
gotta
made
find this.
sure it stays that way.
Yeah, we made sure it stayed was free. Metacritic Reforged, or rather Warcraft refunded. Oh, actually, it came up till 0.6. Yeah. Oh, wait a second, 0.5?
Oh yeah, someone made this trailer for Reforged, where it's, instead of Reforged, it's
Refunded.
Infinity War, and Blizzard are deleting half of all the features in the game.
Yeah.
It's just...
It took me 3 months to get the game to even work.
Wow. And you had the
I got my
patience.
money back. I got my money back, and they still let me keep the game as well, just due to all the inconvenience of trying to get it.
Real
that's
estate.
actually good. Okay.
Yeah, it's hilarious, I think.
That's pretty good, actually. You
Even
got-
The
they
game actually got down to
actually
0.3.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is
Or 0.2, I don't know, but that was... even to this day, it's not any better. Not much any better. It's
So the
still dreadful.
So the thing is, Activision Blizzard destroyed what I would say was a video game sensation. Warcraft 3, the video game sensation that came out in 2002, that influenced so many genres, that was a part of so many
It was my literal
gamers.
childhood.
Yeah, like they basically just took it and they just threw it as far as they could. They had no regard for that, like zero regard for that, and it almost feels as if they did it just to be able to do it and just to drag people away from Warcraft, because the fan base refused to stop playing Warcraft. They still played Warcraft for a very long time. I mean, pre-Reforged era, they were still playing it. There were a lot of people that still loved playing Warcraft back then. So yeah, Metacritic 0.5 was where it got to. They dubbed it.
It got down to 0.3 actually. After.
Okay, hey Breezy is on the stream. Hey Breezy, he says that how did it get 0.5? It doesn't even deserve that. I would agree. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
with
it
that.
got down to 0.3 after.
Yeah, well, it actually increased. I mean, you know, you got some weird fanboys coming out of nowhere. They're like, my childhood dream, Warcraft, yay! And they were like, 5 out of 5. And you literally have a lot of people out there that would literally justify Reforged. Like, really, there are a lot of, well, not a lot. There are a couple
People
of.
think the moon doesn't exist.
I don't know. I don't know how much Blizzard is actually paying them to, you know, do this. I don't really know if that's even a thing, but yeah, that's exactly how it feels there. So
At first, I was so shocked by the graphics that I just couldn't take it all in. I was defending it at first, and then it just took me like a month or two to realize, wow, this is just nothing like they said it was going to be.
yeah, I mean, even if the
It was like a shock.
it was
Go ahead,
shock
sorry.
indeed. Even if you talk about the graphics as to, like, okay, the graphics are not that appealing, even if you allow the graphics to wear down on you, the bigger problem with the graphics is recognizability of the units. Like, it's harder to recognize 2 units from the top-down view perspective in the game, which was not a thing in Classic. It's not at all a thing in Classic. You can easily make out what's a grunt, what's a footman. Okay, that's a different example. You could, okay, how about a difference between a militiaman that's at the man-at-arm mode and a footman. In Reforged, they kind of look similar from the top-down perspective, and you can get easily confused into what exactly is going on there.
They have far too many unnecessary details,
Yes.
which causes unnecessary confusion.
Yes. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
I agree.
details over there that cause a lot of unnecessary confusion as well. And yeah, they also promised a couple of more features, like you know, they said that they're gonna be adding on to the campaign. They're gonna be having more story, more missions and stuff. As in, they literally said that they're going to be exploring the the characters such as Jaina Proudmoore and Sylvanas Windrunner a bit more, because they didn't get a lot of screen time in the original Warcraft 3 series. But of course they didn't do that either. And at the end of the day, that's just what Reforged was. It was a big fat lie and a big spit on the face of every Blizzard fan, every Warcraft fan. So I guess since we're done talking about how bad they performed and whatever they did, I'm gonna be going into a theory and... Sorry, what?
I think I'm gonna go.
Going? Okay, asking.
Yeah.
No, you're a valuable soldier.
Actually, yeah, you're a very valuable soldier.
I want to rant out about Reforged being suck and Illidan not being represented as
you
the
should
true
stay.
awesome.
Actually, you should stay. We don't really have a lot to left. So, I got a
Okay.
little theory over here. I got a little method as to how Reforged could had been saved. So, going back to pre-Reforged era, and all of a sudden Blizzard started caring about Warcraft. This was around 2016 and 17. A lot, all of a sudden they just came around and they're like, new patch. So people were like, yay, Blizzard, they finally came out with a new patch. So otherwise 1.26 was kind of the thing that was super popular. Like, there was literally no other patch that was played as much as 1.26 was, and official Battle.net was kinda plagued by hackers and stuff, as per experience of a lot of people back then. So, people didn't really enjoy that stuff, and a lot of them just switched on to a server known as Warcraft 3 Arena.net. That was a pretty popular thing back then. That worked on 1.26. So Blizzard came out with a couple of updates there. Now, I'm gonna be talking about a couple of updates that they came pre-Reforged era. I'm pretty sure if you guys played Warcraft 3 back then, you guys may know about a lot of these changes. Warcraft 3 at launch in 2002, when it was just 2 GB by the way, including the Frozen Throne expansion. Now it's like 30 GB on Reforged. So when it launched back then, it had maximum 12 players in one game. The maximum limit for players in one game would be 12, and QB has something to say over here. One way I believe Warcraft Refunded could have been saved is Warcraft Definitive Edition. Yeah, baby! Definitive Edition is exactly the way to go. So yeah, coming back to Warcraft 3 pre-Reforged era, you guys may remember that the maximum number of players that could play a Warcraft 3 game were 12. So,
And then they upped it.
Is that a custom game as well, or just
any game, a melee game or custom game, the maximum number of players in one map, in one matchup could have been 12 back then. That got upgraded to 24 pre-Reforged era.
Chaos, and it's one of the most fun things I've ever seen or have been experienced in my entire life.
And I personally believe this could have been revolutionary, if not, disconnections and...
It was revolutionary.
But
It's so
it's
much fun.
Yeah, but sadly it never really got that much around. We don't really have a lot of 24-player maps, as in, like, if you call about a lot of maps out there, I would name one of the maps, well, actually two of them. There is a map called Warcraft 3 Royale. I'm pretty sure you guys know about it. Like, you probably know about it. There's no reason to not know about this map out there. It's basically the Battle Royale mode with Warcraft 3 units, and it's pretty polished. It's a pretty polished map. That used to be of 23 or 24 players. Now they reduced it to 12. And the reason is, of course, because of, instability and disconnections that was caused because of more number of players. So, yeah, that was the thing there. Then there's another map called Skeleton Annihilation. That also had like 17 players early on, that got now reduced to, I don't know, 12 or 11, which is another thing that you really want to talk about. So yeah, that was one of the big updates that came around back then with the Warcraft 3 pre-Reforged era patches. You got new colors, of course, as with the patch coming out. Then Blizzard decided to make something special out there, which was kind of a double-edged sword. Since we had host bots back then, we had a little site, by the way. You could go onto a website and type in, you know, it had the option for you to select a map and host the game using the website, and the host bot would host for you if you you know, selected the options on the website, and you could enter the game and you'd be the host. You could control the game from there. That's how the host bots worked. So Blizzard basically allowed okay, actually I'll have to go a bit more detail into that. Warcraft 3 is a game that came out in 2002, and for a game that's that old, it required something called port forwarding for hosting. I'm pretty sure a couple of you guys,
I remember that.
yeah, maybe knowing about it. You know, 6112 to 6119 UDP and TCP, that whole thing. It's kind of a technical thing. In most cases, I would say, I guess it worked, but there are some exceptions that sadly just wouldn't go through, such as there were some exceptions where you had a dynamic IP, or you just had like a completely rude or illiterate ISP that wouldn't understand the whole concept of forwarding ports, or, you know, stuff like that. So you had that problem going on over there if you couldn't host. So yeah, that was the thing there. So that's why host bots were invented, by the way. That's why the community made host bots, so that anybody could host without the need for port forwarding. So pre-Reforged era, Blizzard did work on Warcraft 3, and they did put in dedicated servers there that allowed players to host without port forwarding. So yes, that did happen pre-Reforged era, and there was no need of bots, so that's when bots got taken out. That was known as the end of an era back then, and a lot of people that worked tirelessly to make those bots, sadly, you know, I mean, it kind of feels that they put in a lot of effort there, and for years they hosted bots and stuff, and now it's going down. So that was a feeling there. A lot of community members do miss the bots. I would also point out a couple of things, as in the commands that start with an exclamation mark in the chat while hosting a game, like close all, open all these commands were the commands of the host bot and not by Blizzard. So Blizzard basically inherited those very commands that came in with the host bots, and they made those commands a part of their actual game in there. So yeah, host bots were removed and people could host themselves. And then there was another feature, which is a widescreen support, which is a pretty basic thing, but it did not have native widescreen support. Warcraft 3 was a game made in 4:3 ratio that was on the older monitors. So when you finally got the widescreen and all, Warcraft 3, well, you could stretch it. Like, you could have it as a stretched resolution, but of course for a lot of people it wouldn't really look appealing, and it shouldn't, for obvious reasons. Otherwise you'll be used to looking at a stretched Warcraft version. So the modders themselves managed to make something that they could actually maintain the aspect ratio and have the Warcraft 3 screen stretched at the same time. So that was done by modders, by the way. This was not done by Blizzard until one of the latest patches there. So Blizzard did this pre-Reforged era. Then they increased the map file size for custom maps, which was limited to 8 MB at one point of time. Well, actually for a long time, the maps could have been 8 MB only. Multiplayer maps, yeah, I'm gonna be talking only multiplayer maps. Single player maps could have been, I don't know, 100 MB or something, but
That was
there was a small mod
change.
there was a small mod that removed the 8 megabytes limit. It was community made.
Yeah, but it was very inconsistent.
Yeah, so a lot of modders just, you know, they were kind of restricted to that 8 MB limit, and they couldn't really do everything they wanted to do with their imagination because of that very limit. That kind of got removed, as in it got increased to a big number, which I don't exactly remember. Hey Knight, you remember that, right?
What do I remember? What am I supposed to remember?
Okay, what's the maximum limit for file size for a map, multiplayer map in Warcraft right now?
Well, it used to be 8 megabyte. Then a community might made it so it's removed or something. And then I heard like some sort of crap like 32 megabytes or 68 or 124 or something like that. But right now there's speculations if there is 256 or 512.
Okay, so that's the thing there. So yeah, that was the thing
That's
there.
for retail. The highest numbers are for retail.
So yeah, that's the thing that Warcraft 3, you know, that's the pre-Reforged era patch that gave the map limited, you know, that gave the maps a higher limit for the file size, so the modders could do a better job of making good multiplayer maps, which they were doing for years and years. Apart from that, there came a lot of good world editor
What
changes.
are you guys even talking about? Like, what parts did you pass?
Oh
what
yeah,
did you
there
not
we
pass?
go, Knight's here. Just gonna drop in the middle here. So yeah, Knight, we're just talking about a couple of good updates that Blizzard came up with pre-Reforged era. So yeah, why am I talking about these updates? I'm gonna be going over why exactly I'm talking about these updates in a bit. So yeah, we had a lot of world editor changes right after that. Like they enabled a lot of things that were not possible on the world editor before that. There was a huge changelog over there. I exactly wouldn't be able to explain most of it since I'm not really a map editor, but we have Knight. Knight, you shall explain the good changes. Knight?
What?
Yeah,
Well,
there we go.
Actually, there was something I wanted to talk about. When I first joined and you were talking, I heard about the how you kind of sort of glanced over Reforged.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process of the announcement in 2018 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, wow, shocker. Everybody was like super shocked that it failed. Mm-hmm. Well, for me, not really, because there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that was suggesting that Reforged would fail. One of them was actually the patch updates that they did to the game, which they brought a lot of good stuff, and they kind of removed some of the good stuff too, like the ent bots and the make me host bots. But every base patch, like after right before Blizzard came in, the patch was like 1.28.5, right? And then they released the first patch all the way up to Reforged. And those patches were the base, I'll only name the base patches, 1.29.0, 1.30.0, and then 1.31.0. I can say all three of these patches were a disaster at launch. And then the mini patches that came after that fixed like a lot of the game. And then another base patch that launched, they broke the game again, and then so on and so forth. There was actually a huge, sort of like a mini backlash in the Warcraft 3 forums regarding how they announced on, I don't know, some random article that the story was getting cut off, and people were raging about that. And then there was some backlash to the models of the game and how the game looked compared from 2018 to 2019 or whatever. So I think it wasn't necessarily all that shocking that the game eventually, like a lot of people at the verge of Reforged release were just sitting in the corner hoping the game would be delayed.
Yeah, that's another thing that Knight kind of pointed out. That's also a striking thing there. And yeah, that's one thing that I'll also like to put in over there. As in, okay, Reforged, the graphics weren't that appealing. The features, you know, people kind of knew about some features being cut out. They got into the beta and they're like, meh, Reforged, yeah, this is some stuff here. And for a guy like me, I was like, okay, I mean, if nothing else, at least we'll get to play the custom campaigns on Reforged graphics. And I was like, you know, when it came out,
well, by the way,
did you guys mention
like smaller things like, I don't know, literally the classic version of the game looking like shit on Reforged release, as if it was some mocking show or whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. Now you can talk about it. You have the details.
It isn't necessarily a big thing, but
It is a...
That problem, and a lot of models broke. Why? Here's the thing. When you take I feel like this is what the developers failed at. So, when you take a game from 2002 or 2003, because a lot of people sometimes kind of half make fun of Warcraft 3, but not make fun of it at the same time. They kind of said the old game... Some of the more talented people in the community, they said the game was on the surface level, you wouldn't necessarily know what type of problems it had, but in reality, the code was a bit of a mess. Oh, and I'll point out some things. For example, in the older patches, before the main patches of 1.29 and so on came in, apparently people could sneak in. I mean, nobody really did it, and I'm not trying to give too much of a fire to this problem, but it was technically possible for people to sneak in viruses inside the maps of the game, and then when you download the map, you would get a virus. So the game's code was a bit unsafe and unstable, but actually I kind of lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
You're talking about virus being inserted into your PCs and PCs being hijacked so that Knight could take over the world.
No. That's the other part. Oh yeah, and then we talked about how the classic game was kind of broken. Oh yeah. What I'm seeing here is the developers of the game either knew and the higher management at Blizzard ignored, or the developers didn't care. One or the other. I'm not going to try to speculate, but I feel like whatever they did to the game was a massive lack of understanding of what the game was and what it evolved to be, and how they could have cared for the game to make sure whatever it evolved after the Reforged update, it was properly preserved and transitioned so that the different sides of the different aspects of the community weren't damaged. That was not the case. They didn't necessarily thought things through. They just forced everything through like a battering ram. And about the models, why the classic models broke, because that was the original thing that I was talking about. It's actually one of the reasons it broke is because of the new skin system they added, right? So they were like, we're gonna release some new skins so people can buy, and their model gets swapped and they can play this in the main game. Well, the actual system that they put in place for that, the map makers can make use of that. Right now in the retail game, I think it's kind of fixed right now, that map makers can make use of that function, that I can make it so my custom map, whenever you load it in classic graphics, it shows one custom model, and then when you switch to Reforged, it shows an entirely different custom model. So that's like a feature, right?
Right.
But that feature wasn't fixed. It was broken, and that's one of the parts as to why the classic models broke and the Lightning engine wasn't working correctly, because the Lightning engine, by the way, the classic graphics Lightning engine, it is no longer the vanilla game's Lightning engine, the visual engine. It's completely rewritten, and what they did is they rewrote the graphics engine, and they made sure that the new Reforged Lightning engine can somehow replicate how the old game looked as much as possible. And that was one of the main reasons as to why it was so hard to actually replicate how the older game looked.
So they had not just make the Reforged version, but they had to rebuild the old version from 2002 from the ground up.
Yes. Just because they wanted crossplay.
They had a built-in UI before, which was much more stable in terms of performance. But the web browser UI that they have now, I heard it. First of all, it ate too much CPU, and second of all, was kind of laggy, slow, laggy, didn't function properly.
Very, very.
Some
And
people
then it
said.
got
Some people
compiled.
said. I think the people that could run Reforged on classic graphics said that their problem isn't that they can't. Their problem isn't that they can't run the classic version, because I also know that after patch 1.31, the requirement before even Reforged was even there. After patch 1.31 or 1.30, the requirement for the base game actually increased, so you needed more RAM. But if you even got more RAM, when it actually arrived to the whole situation of Reforged, people could technically play the classic graphics, but the problem was they couldn't run the UI, so they could get to the game. That was like one of the main problems. That's how bad the UI was.
Yeah, and that's one of the
I wonder
main
if this
things
is
out
what was
there.
happening to me.
Probably. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people just got stuck on the main menu screen, and that ate up a lot of RAM there. In my, old build, when I did not have an SSD, it lagged hard. Like, it was painful. As soon as I got the SSD, well, no problem at all. But here's the thing over there, right there. Like, in this day and age, this is something that Knight pointed out some time ago to me earlier. In this day and age, developers are like, they don't want to optimize stuff. They just want to throw stuff out just like that, without completely optimizing it.
Actually, I
That's
would
actually
say so.
disputable. It's hard to tell because they didn't really have time, even if they wanted, to play, test, fix, and polish the game. They just didn't have time. And
Well,
it's not
Well,
a failure.
it's not that they didn't have time. It's more like the managers didn't give them time.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
managers
Yeah.
at Blizzard.
It's not
Really?
about the team who
Still-
made the game. They obviously did their best. You can't blame the team who made the game.
it's
It's
still...
the people at the top who pushed them harder than they needed to, so they were just scraping the barrel, just shoving stuff in, trying to come up with
It's
something.
already
to-
been a year since the game was out. I don't think we really need to wait longer for basic features like that. Like most basic features that would actually enable you to actually play the game to begin with. So yeah, that's I think that Knight pointed out some important updates there. Some things that...
I'll also, can I just talk about the visuals for a moment? Because I saw you guys talking about it, at least posting images and stuff.
Sure.
So, my whole take on this is that, well, actually, I spent a lot of time criticizing the visuals of Reforged, and what I concluded is that maybe I should take a more neutral approach, because back then I was more of a hardcore purist. Like, I was like, the visuals should be as close as to the original game as possible in its specific style. Now I'm not necessarily sure about that. Well, what I would point out, there's objective criticism that can be pointed out to the models, right? So here's how Blizzard models are generally made for like their games, like Heroes of the Storm. I don't necessarily care about the art style. Like, you can argue about if you want certain shoulder pads or how a silhouette of a model is made. You can argue about that, but how Blizzard models were made in general, even in Overwatch, they were made so... Wait. Right. So they were made so they weren't necessarily over dependent on the Lightning engine. They didn't need the Lightning engine to look good. Like, if you took them out of the game and viewed them in a separate model editor, they would look fine, because they weren't dependent. It's like, you have to get into hard model making stuff to kind of understand this, but they weren't over dependent on the effects of the Lightning engine to look good.
That explains why we would, back in the old Warcraft 3, we could use the models from World of Warcraft, because it was the same engine, just upgraded. We could use the World of Warcraft models in old Warcraft 3, and they would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also there's also like something that they do to basically what I was talking about with the overdependence on Lightning engine. That's how Blizzard models worked, and that's how the performance actually was really good. And there was a specific style to Blizzard models that well, I'm not trying to say they didn't necessarily look gritty, because Diablo kind of did look gritty, What I did notice with Blizzard models, however, at least outside of Diablo, is that visually, in terms of art, they looked clean. Like, it wasn't like Warhammer that when you see a Space Marine, like, why was Warhammer basically criticized? Dawn of War 3. Why was Dawn of War 3's visual criticized? Because the Space Marines, the tanks, the dreadnoughts, they looked like they came out clean out of the factory, like no battle damage. That's literally what Warcraft 3 Reforged, or basically a general Blizzard art, actually looked like. That's what it suited the game. Clean models with no battle damage, just smooth and nice. But that's like an art critique, which I don't want to get into because kind of people just backlash to me and say that's like subjective, so I don't necessarily want to pressure on that too hard. So their overdependence on Lightning Engine meant that the new Reforged models, they depended on the Reforged rewritten Lightning Engine so much that it actually harmed the performance. Plus, the models had a lot of polygons. I've seen Reforged models that had more polygons than World of Warcraft, Battle for Azeroth, and World bosses. I think one of Reforged I'm pretty sure like something like Mounted Arthas has more polygons than Enzoth, because somebody dug the model out and then compared the polygon sizes. That is insane. It's either Enzoth or N'Zoth, I think.
N'Zoth.
Well, that's kind of brings us to the point we discussed. That's what Stormy mentioned. It's sometimes it's easy to confuse units like militia, peasant with man-at-arms, and the footmen, because there's so many unnecessary details on them. In my opinion,
ghouls and skeleton warriors. I mean, you have some different, you have some similarities there that you now.
Yeah, I firmly believe all the small segments that could have been bad for like overhauling the visuals of the game were done bad. So we're talking about overdependence on the Lightning Engine instead of the models looking good on their own, so it wouldn't harm performance. Too many details to be rendered at the same time, too much polygon, and all of the models of Reforged, I've been hearing that the complexity of the models are really great. So simple edits like we do now, like right now, let me just show you something let me just bring up from that. So in classic Warcraft 3, I could take like basically any model I wanted, and because of some of the tools that people made, and because of how easy it was to actually modify Warcraft 3 models, I could just take some random model, add nice little tweaks to it because of the existing resources and material at Hive Workshop, and then just create random different versions of model that were specifically tuned for me. Like if you can see this Admiral that I made, it has an eye patch, it has a different sword, it has a flintlock pistol at his other hand. These simple edits for the modding side in Reforged, I heard that it's significantly harder because of the much more complex, unneeded complex models. And it just harms the modding community because people can't make models as fast as they should, and they don't look good because you have to spend a lot of time to make sure the textures are polished and everything is correct. And then it would probably look good. But for like at least the older style of Blizzard models, because they didn't necessarily depend on the Lightning Engine too much, you could just make a really good looking texture, mount it on the model, and it would look kind of pretty great. It wouldn't necessarily require too much work. So on the modding side, it hurt the game. On the visual side, it hurt the game. On the art side, pretty much I think Stormy said that every big pro melee player doesn't necessarily like Reforged graphics. I don't know, you name it.
Nobody really plays Reforged graphics. Everybody plays on classic. Like, I'm pretty sure, every single guy that plays melee plays on classic.
I just wanted to point out that, like, pretty much everything that I wanted to say is finished. I just wanted to say that there was, like, a legitimate argument on why the models failed objectively on a functional level, not just how they looked, or maybe this shoulder was, like, too big or that shoulder was, like, too small. In terms of, like, how it functions, how it affected both the game and the modding community, it was just kind of a disaster, in my opinion. They didn't think through.
They really messed up there. They needed to put more testing into the gameplay and see how the graphics would actually correlate to it.
Oh, and I'll mention one thing. So how the process of the models were made. This is a couple of things I know. So, first, the lead art manager was Brian Sousa, which what happened was his vision of how Warcraft universe should look in terms of overhauling Warcraft 3 was the World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria cinematic. That's like a bullet point that he mentioned. So in my opinion, the fact that he mentions that, it's kind of like it's kind of sketchy ground. I wouldn't necessarily hold up the Mists of Pandaria cinematic as like a pinnacle of how Warcraft should look. And other missteps that happened during the overhaul of the visual process is that he left midway through, and then some random guy from Lemon Sky was put in charge of the game. And Lemon Sky themselves released Reddit posts saying that pretty much everything that we did, we got a pretty fast and quick, no challenge check mark from Blizzard to go ahead. That to me suggests that Blizzard didn't really try to manage it. They were just like, hurry up. Yeah, it's good. Let's just keep going. It's good. It's okay. No changes needed.
That explains a lot of things there.
Storm might not activated.
Yeah. Since we're on the topic, the thing that I was saying earlier, and where the very title of the topic, how could Reforged had been successful? So my idea over here would be a bit more easier as compared to what other people would rather think. Of course, talking about missing features and stuff like that, I would rather talk about a couple of features that Blizzard kind of already had there, and this is something that they could have done, and the outrage would have been controlled significantly. I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been an outrage. I'm not saying that the fan base would not have disliked it or ranted about it, but it would have been significantly controlled if Blizzard took this route instead, as compared to what they did right now. So my first suggestion, or rather my first take on the topic, would be that keep Classic and Reforged different.
Yes.
Okay, so while keeping...
No need to hear the rest.
Yeah,
I already agree.
While keeping Classic different, we may remember that PTR Classic, that's 1.3.1 PTR, was actually running for a couple of months, even after Reforged got launched. So what they could have done was keep one server alive and not call it PTR. They could have just kept one server alive, and 1.31 would have been the immortal and very last patch for Warcraft 3 Classic, or Warcraft 3 Vanilla, as some people like to refer to it as. Coming to Reforged, let's add the 24-player update to Reforged. Let's add the new colors to Reforged, the hosting facility without port forwarding to Reforged, the widescreen facility to Reforged, the map size increase to Reforged, the world editor changes to Reforged. Let's take this route and keep Classic Warcraft 3 separate, and these new features only on Reforged. Of course, Reforged would also have the facility to switch back and forth between Classic and Reforged. That would keep that feature there.
Yeah.
If they did it this route and they still kept the game as it is, you know, without the ladder, and they'd be like, yeah, we're working on the ladder, we're still working, there would have been a significantly low outrage as compared to what we had and what we got. Okay, also keep the custom campaigns, by the way. I'm not gonna say take away that, because that will also thing there. Even if they didn't do that, technically
I actually disagree with that.
Classic was still live. Well, of course, everybody is free to disagree with that. People would have their own suggestions on that whole topic. This is my take on the thing there. This is something that was a possibility by Blizzard, in my opinion, because they released these updates like a year or two before Reforged. They could have held up to this, kept it for Reforged itself, and released it with Reforged. These were a couple of huge updates that came in with Warcraft 3 with a couple of patches there, and those were pretty big back in the days there.
So wait, basically, you're saying that all of the good stuff we got pre-Reforged should have been just kept in the bank to be instantly released with Reforged, just so they would get good press.
I mean, if I were Blizzard and if I had that kind of a thing there and I had to release Reforged, that's how I would have done it, to be frankly honest. If I just could not get the other features across, which they didn't, of course. This is my take on the topic. If I kept...
I mean, it's a good point, because at the time, right before Reforged, like, the game's 15 years old. The people who are still playing Classic, it's a small number of them compared to the amount of people they'll be getting for Reforged. So maybe if they did keep a couple of the things they changed on Classic at the end, they saved it in the bank for Reforged, maybe Reforged would have had a better success.
It would have definitely be a different thing, even if people just stuck with Classic and didn't really bother about
Yeah,
Reforged.
but what's on Classic?
Everything the same.
The version of Classic that Storm Knight's now talking about, it doesn't have anything. It just exists in a limbo.
I'm Storm Knight
until
now.
It dies off.
I'm Storm Knight now, guys. He just gave up his identity.
Did I accidentally say you're Storm Knight?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. That's like peak Storm Knight gaming moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's my take on the thing. Of course, you have the other features like ladders and stuff that still aren't a part of the game. And now, host bots were removed back then, with the hosting feature being introduced. But now, we're coming back with host bots. Warcraft 3 Champions is working on host bots. It's already out. It's already a part of their client and thing there. It's already being used.
By the way, somebody made some random forum post complaining that in Warcraft 3 Champions you get banned for team killing, and I'm like, of course, that's what the default game should have. What do you mean?
Yeah, why are you arguing about that?
Why are you whining about not being able to team kill?
I want to team kill my ally.
That's like probably the people who would defend Reforged by saying that it's good. It's not shit at all.
Those people's opinions,
I'm just team killing people randomly.
Yeah, that's my take on the thing. So I guess I'm gonna give everybody over here a couple of minutes to talk about the stuff. So I guess we can begin with Knight. So Knight.
Wait, not me?
You wanna talk first, King?
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
in my opinion,
I'm fine.
very similar to Storm, to Z Dog. I want Classic to be its own independent thing. Don't touch it. It's perfect in every single way. Don't touch it. Then you make Reforged. Okay, you're like, we were rushed in time, so we couldn't make all the features. They still exist in the normal game. Everything is normal in the normal game. Go play that. Reforged exists now in the Battle.net. So all the updates, all the new updates will come out to Reforged, and obviously keep you have the option to switch to normal graphics.
This is something similar to what Age of Empires HD edition.
Can I ask questions?
Not definitive edition, by the way. HD edition. This is somewhat similar to what I've suggested. Is somewhat similar to what Age of Empires 2 HD did, because that kind of came out with less features. I mean, they just had a new campaign.
Wait, so let me understand this. Basically, what you're saying is old Warcraft 3 would have stayed there with all the hotspot functions and everything.
Yes.
And then what would happen is then people would make Reforged. I think that would divide the community, because I wouldn't disagree.
I think so too.
That would divide the community.
And by the way, when you said there was like a lower percentage of people stick to the older game, who do you think makes all the maps, the custom maps and stuff? That's like a very minority of hyper talented people, or at least hyper dedicated people, who create all this stuff. They don't just come out of a fountain in the middle of the land just because everybody bought the game. So if the older people would stay back on the older game, then there would be no good mods for the new game because nobody would even bother. I think that would divide the community.
I will surely divide the
And then
community.
Reforged, maybe that's Osking's plan. He's like, Reforged must die.
Yes,
Burn.
killer fire. Sure,
Okay.
the community might be a bit divided, but think about it. You still get the original with Reforged. So if you bought Reforged, you still have the original. So if there's like a map you want to play on the original, you could still play the original.
I mean, you can still play it if you have a no honor version of it, which probably every single one of us has it. I mean, we don't really have to.
To be fair, I'm just gonna say what's my ideal position of Reforged with like the most simplest, the most understandable possible explanation. I would have preferred a remaster for Warcraft 3, not a remake. I think that perfectly explains how I would like
Explain
things
it.
to go.
What's the difference?
Yeah, there's not really a lot of difference.
There is though. A remake is like basically what they did. They rewrote the entire Lightning engine. They recreated the models from ground up. What I would have preferred is like a remaster, like a basic remaster, like how,
One.
like I don't know, like Age of Empires HD edition or Rise of Nations extended edition, something like that.
I think I see what you mean, I kind of agree with that because they kind of lied about a lot of the hype. So it would have been an easier transition. I think if they would have done that, than acting like we have this whole new big game.
Or like did you guys see the Command and Conquer remaster? That wasn't like a, I don't know, an entire remake. It was just a remaster. Like nothing like too much different, but they just remastered the game as in the visual remake. They wouldn't put too much money in the visual remake, and because of Warcraft's unique style, they wouldn't have to put too much effort there. And they would do like some sort of like a basic level visual remake, and then they would remaster the game. They would obviously improve the online functionalities and world editor functionalities, and then just hand everything else to the community. They would pretty much do everything without disturbing things like the bots and the stuff. So it would have been perfect, I think.
No, just as it was all these years before Reforged.
Well, just as it was, but better because.
I have to go. Sorry.
All right, Asking.
Wow, okay.
Good night.
I just want to say this. The thing is, I don't really care what they do with Reforged as long as the original still exists. And then they could just, I don't care. And if the community is a bit divided, again, it doesn't create that much of a big issue.
Right.
So,
Well, if you're talking
That's exactly what Microsoft did with Age of Empires. I mean, they was fine with it. It was just okay. It went, actually, the whole idea of combining and, you know, by asking, the whole idea of having the whole crossplay thing to begin with is exactly what kind of destroyed the whole thing, because that's a lot more work that they had in their hand of recreating classic and then, you know, having the whole crossplay thing there. That's a whole, you know, big thing that they had in their hands that they had to do it, which they haven't perfected it yet. So, who's next to talk? Sauce, what would you like to say?
It would have been nice if they added the whole tournament feature.
Oh yeah, tournament feature was a thing in
I like
classic.
that.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah,
in
like I
Classic.
only played Classic for like 8 months, but I remember really enjoying I think it was like almost daily tournaments that they had.
Yeah, they had daily tournaments and stuff. You could easily just log on to that time, click on the play tournament button, and voila, you're inside the tournament. It's going on.
And they had cool icons you could win from the tournament wins.
I think
thought that
that's
was cool.
part of the ladder functionality that's supposed to come back in the next update.
Yeah,
I
well,
really
sure.
hope so.
The next update, the imaginary update that we're expecting.
The 1.33. That's what's supposed to be.
It's just going to be more footprints, better footprints, more evolved, more detailed footprints.
The footprints meme. By the way,
Blood mage
I
footprints.
I went to the point of criticizing how Blizzard wrote their patches because it was frustrating me. Like, I didn't like the fact that just everybody just swarmed on the whole footprints thingy, but they weren't wrong. But the way that I saw it, like, in some of the updates, they would say, like, okay, and basically this was like most of the updates. So the update would be out, and then at the top of the update, they would say, footprint, like, we fixed this footprints, right? And then people would just zone out instantly, like something psychological. They would just zone out because they would be like, here's the important stuff. And then if you scroll down like a bit, maybe they fixed some actual important stuff, right? So whoever was writing those patch posts, like, he didn't realize that he should put the most, like, at least the most important stuff from top to bottom, instead of putting the most important stuff right at the bottom and then put a stupid footprint fix in the like the right at the top. So
I agree with you. They even said stupid shit in the patch notes. Like,
Silhouette.
I can't remember exactly what they said. I don't have it pulled up, but they were saying corny things in it to make it seem like it was okay. Like the patches.
They got corny things everywhere. I mean, even if you go to the current non-existent ladder thing, if you select random, it's like, it's gonna be anything, maybe even Naga, and then in bracket it's like, it's not Naga. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's just some corny stuff which is okay.
I thought that was funny. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes
by the way, you guys want to go like more speculation? How about if they just released a third expansion for the game instead of a remaster or a remake?
I mean, that's also a thing that...
Rise of the Naga.
I mean, or just, I don't know, continue on to Rise of the Blood Elves and Curse of the Forsaken. Do something like that. Do the Age of Empires route. Just take the Forgotten Empires team in and just make the expansion out of that. It's totally possible.
Oh, by the way... like some of the things that I think could have been, like the basic stuff that I think they could have done that would make the game more successful is, I don't think they should have hyped up, because this is like one of the worst parts about Reforged. I think they hyped up some sort of third-person in-game cinematic that people with motion capture animations went around and waved their hands and did their stuff.
I mean, we kind of wanted that, but that didn't come around.
Yeah, well, you might have wanted it, but I was not necessarily for that idea, because what I thought that like because I was afraid. I thought they were still going to remaster the campaign properly, regardless of these new cinematics and stuff, right? And then when they announced that they were cutting all these cinematics and doing it the original way, that it should like a third-person camera, I still thought that they were going to do the cinematics and they were going to use the basic functionalities of Warcraft that every map maker was using since the dawn of time. I thought they were going to use stuff like that to properly create good cinematics. On top of that, good gameplay, some extra changes, some little minor details here and there, but they didn't do any of that, and I was just like, why were these guys thinking that it's important to put all their attention and money on creating these cinematics instead? So some of the things that I was thinking about, like, we could have had a Manoroth boss fight at the end of Reign of Chaos when Thrall and Grom faced him. We could, like, that you don't need cinematics for that. You don't need motion capture for. Just make a Manoroth boss fight. You already had the model. Small things like that. You could have had more stuff going on in the third, more like the bird eye view cutscenes that were more drawn back. You could have done more stuff in the background, like proper army formations moving out. Those were simple stuff that you could do to just make a good atmosphere.
It's nothing on.
You could have.
It just shows how much the game flopped. Like, so many things were not done that could have.
You could have put in more Easter eggs, more items. You could have, for example, made Arthas to be like, I don't know, if you guys said you wanted to appeal the game to World of Warcraft. Like, I don't even like World of Warcraft, but whatever. You could have made Arthas to look like some Retribution paladin, or like his abilities, tweak his abilities. Like, or you could make Grom to look like an actual warrior instead of a blade master. These were the small things that I was expecting them to do. But
some uniqueness. They're not just reskinned generic lord. Like,
yeah, so that was something that I was expecting. That they were going to improve on the game. Maybe, I don't know, give the Doomhammer as an item to Thrall, so he would have some sort of a perk benefit. So cool stuff like this. And maybe they could also add the functionality of co-op campaigns, so you could play the single-player game with your friends.
That would be really cool.
I mean, it's already there.
So,
Spoon just finished making the co-op campaign up till the second last campaign for the Frozen Throne expansion as well. It's kind of already there. They could just implement it in with a button or something.
Exactly. So this was the improvement that I was expecting to the campaigns. A little bit of tweak here and there. It wasn't that hard, but for some reason they thought that this stereotypical, I don't know if I'm using the right word, Hollywood approach to doing motion capture cinematic was better than actually improving the campaign.
And they didn't even do that at the end of this tale, so it just I mean, what did they do? What did they even do? Oh, yeah. No. Okay. So we're kind of running out of time here. So, Gronky and Cupia, anything you'd like to add into this?
I think what I want to add is Blizzard have a strange fetish with shoulder pads.
Well, I have some that we may have mentioned, but we haven't really discussed much. Is the policy that Blizzard introduced with
Reforged. Yes, the EULA.
Oh, the
Storm
custom
Knight.
EULA, but custom maps. And
you don't own your map, Storm Knight. It's now Blizzard's map.
Yes, that's...
Here's the problem with that. I think Blizzard introduced that, and I'm just waiting for them to actually act on it, because they didn't actually act on it just yet.
Because they still have LOTR maps being hosted every day.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think even Blizzard knows that if they so much as dare to like threaten the existence of custom maps, people will just set the whole forums on fire.
Here's the thing. They kind of did that earlier. There's a story about somebody making a world of StarCraft inside the StarCraft editor, and they kind of shut it down. That actually
they shut it down. Or was there like
they kind of did. There is a story out there about that. There was a thing, a world of StarCraft being made by a modding community for StarCraft 2, of course, but that kind of got shut down. I did read an article about that a couple of years ago. It was a long time ago, of course. So the thing
by the way, I keep remembering about smaller stuff. I just keep remembering about smaller screw ups that they do.
Actually, I just pulled up an article on the StarCraft modder that got shut down. It's a World of StarCraft modder shut down and pleads for Blizzard approval. That is the article head.
Yes.
Wow.
So the thing is, they want to control it in a way that, okay, whatever we want to have go through, we'll just have it go through, and whatever we don't want it to, so the thing is, the way that they kind of shunned the entire custom campaign thing kind of goes on to say that they don't want Warcraft 3 players to experience the World of Warcraft storyline, like with the campaigns that I mentioned earlier, Rise of the Blood Elves and Curse of the Forsaken, and of course you have some others.
I just think they're afraid of another Dota.
They're definitely afraid of another Dota, and they don't want to lose.
That's more like a symbolic mention.
They're not afraid of it. They want it. They want another Dota.
They don't want a Dota 2 to happen. That's the thing. They don't want another Dota 2 to happen. They don't want a modder to make a mod inside their game that became the best games of games. Yeah, I think I already spoke about that one in a couple of episodes before, but
it's more like a symbolic thing that they don't want the community to outperform themselves.
Yes.
Because they have potential too.
They have huge potential. I mean, even till date, despite of all the drawbacks and everything that Blizzard did, community is still working hard to make Warcraft 3 a good thing. It's still working hard.
Don't you think though, with the new rule or whatever, however you say it, that they kind of own the rights to the custom games. That's them searching to grab to find a new game like Dota that they could blow up.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're gonna do. They're basically going to take over whatever next thing is going to blow up within the Warcraft 3 custom games and make it their own IP, then launch it as their own game instead of somebody having steal it and then put it on into the Steam, Valve's Steam store.
Could this have been the entire reason Reforged got set up?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about
guys,
this for a while now.
Did you guys even talk about the whole China related stuff regarding Reforged?
No, we did not.
No, yeah, China actually had a different version.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing that I don't know.
We'll discuss
Feels
about
weird.
it another day.
Basically,
let's give a small summary.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. There is no I'm not gonna tell a fucking whole big ass story about China. So
1 hour later.
The whole story with China, if I remember correctly, if I remember enough, that is, because there's a lot of stuff. So what I remember is that China got some exclusive content and behind the scene information that arrived to them sooner. Some of the things that the Chinese have is that they also have their own version of online connection.
Yeah.
That they actually don't reuse the Reforged one, they just use NetEase, I think. Yes, so that's some improved functions which Blizzard is still yet to introduce, and they haven't. So it's not like they convinced the Chinese to get Reforged. They kind of even failed at that, but there's also the fact that they spent needless resources on creating different versions of models that were exclusively more PG-13 exclusively for the Chinese. They, on the release day of Reforged, they were a whole host of words that were censored, that you couldn't type your map name using certain words. God was censored, Lord was censored for some unknown reason.
Booty was censored.
Booty was censored.
Booty Bay is a place in War. It's literally the first map that you'll find in Warcraft Classic in the melee maps.
And they even I even remember them censoring the word Diablo for some reason.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Oh, that reminds me. Gronky and I were actually hosting a game in StarCraft.
A little bit of self-hate there.
Yeah, I just called. I just put down the name of the game as Serbia. Well, actually, it was changing the names around here and there a bit. So I was playing with Bengaluses before, so I named the game Bengal. So when I eventually started playing with Gronky, I changed the name to Serbia, since he's from Serbia, of course. And the game didn't allow me to host the game. It didn't allow me to host the game.
You have to name it country.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing over there. Yeah.
I should have tried to name it Scotland in the next time.
We just ended up naming it country, and that worked out.
By the way, guys, where's there was one person was here and he left.
That was Cubia. Cubia had something to do.
Did he say anything?
Yeah, he did. He spoke a bit. He just said about shoulder plates.
Oh, and he did mention that the skin system for heroes is a good idea.
Yeah.
Change his mind. I'm not gonna try and change his mind. It was a good idea, but it was executed poorly.
So, I guess that'll be all for today. It's been 1 hour 40 minutes, and I also have some things to tend to. So yes, that was the capital of the hour for today. Thank you, Gronky, Sauce, Storm Knight, Cubia, and the other guy asking, who are not here right now, for joining me in. Hopefully,
thank you.
I mean, since we do have a lot of things to discuss, we may have another episode of Reforged where we would want to talk about this a bit more in detail. Perhaps we can cover things one by one. Because
you can't necessarily cover Reforged in one go.
Yeah, surely not. Go after it a bit by bit. Yeah, that'll be all for today. Thank you everybody for joining me in, and we'll be ending it right here then.
hear anything as well.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I kind of disconnected for a moment. Thank you for everybody. Thank you everybody for joining in. So that'll be all for today. Hopefully, I'll be seeing you next Sunday on the next episode of the Capital of the Hour then. Thank you everybody, and see you next week.
See